Please feel free to adjust the playback speed to 1.25 or 1.5 depending on your preference.
Jin-Woo didn't miss this opportunity. Skill, dash has been activated. Your movement speed has increased by 30%. 1 mana will be spent every minute during its activation. Jin-Woo rapidly got closer to his target. Kang Tae-sik's eyes grew wider still. He got faster? Jin-Woo had been displaying an already high level of agile movements, but now that he had gotten even faster, Kang Tae-sik found it quite disorientating. Jin-Woo closed the distance in the blink of an eye and sank his poison fang of Kasaka down on Kang Tae-sik's thigh. He aimed there precisely because Kang Tae-sik was focused on defending his upper body only. Effect, paralysis has been activated. The effect has been cancelled due to the high resistance of the target. Effect, bleeding has been activated. The target's stamina will decrease by 1% per second. Nice. The added effects of the Kasaka dagger kicked in as well. It was a bit regretful that the paralysis didn't work, but still, this fight had become just a tad easier now. However, Kang Tae-sik was a high-ranked hunter himself. So, his resistance was nothing to scoff about. His dagger aimed at Jin-Woo's vitals and continued to fly in. Swish, swish. Jin-Woo evaded the blade with only a hair's breadth and also attacked Kang Tae-sik's vital spots. Even though his thigh was badly damaged, Kang Tae-sik calmly defended against Jin-Woo's attacks, as befitting an experienced hunter. Clang! Cling! Cold sweat drops formed on the foreheads of both men. Our speeds are about the same. We're moving at the same speed. 2 men were inwardly admiring each other's agile movements and continued to clash in a dazzling display of super close proximity knife fighting. Several powerful attacks, each one capable of ending this fight if hit, were exchanged without rest. It was a truly scary and gripping battle that caused the onlookers' blood to go cold. I got to break this stalemate somehow. Jin-Woo gathered strength in his eyes. Skill, intimidation has been activated. The moment his eyes met Jin-Woo's, Kang Tae-sik flinched slightly for some reason. What was that? Effect, fear has been activated. The target's, all, stats will decrease by 50% for 1 minute. It worked. Jin-Woo knew that he had won now. On the other hand, a small earthquake erupted in Kang Tae-sik's eyes. How come my body is? After he had met Jin-Woo's gaze, his body felt as heavy as if he was floundering in deep water or some such. His trusty speed began decreasing as well. Wounds on Kang Tae-sik's body increased quickly one by one. This isn't possible. Kang Tae-sik's thoughts became confused and messy. This was, without a doubt, a depuffing effect. But, he had never, ever heard of a case where an assassin class was able to use a debuff magic. Assassination was not his speciality, then? If that was the case, then what was up with his crazy speed? However, Kang Tae-sik had stopped his train of thoughts there. His confusion had rapidly morphed into panic, instead. Because he had spotted Jin-Woo abruptly rushing in closer. Kang Tae-sik hurriedly took aim at Jin-Woo's eyes. Swish! Jin-Woo quickly tilted his head out of the way, but the dagger still managed to graze his cheek. Of course, he knew he'd get hurt, at least by this much, or even worse. In order to get that decisive strike in, he decided to take the risk. Kang Tae-sik's expression crumpled. Fuck. Jin-Woo succeeded in getting close to Kang Tae-sik's chest and stabbed down on the latter with the poison fang of Kasaka. Kang Tae-sik's eyes shot open wider. Both men knew right away at that moment. The victor had been truly decided with that one move. Crimson-red blood pooled in Kang Tae-sik's mouth. It was gushing up from his chest. As blood leaked out from the side of his lips, Kang Tae-sik formed a smirk. To actually run into a reawakened hunter inside a lowly rank D dungeon. Me and my seriously rotten. The dagger in Kang Tae-sik's hand fell to the floor. He continued to pant heavily as he leaned his head closer and whispered something in Jin-Woo's ear. Jin-Woo silently listened to those last words, before pulling the dagger out from Kang Tae-sik's chest. Just like a dress slipping off a clothes hanger, Kang Tae-sik crumpled to the floor, lifeless. Plop. Tearing. You have completed emergency quest, kill all the enemies. The expected messages did pop up, but Jin-Woo's expression wasn't so good. Just like the last time, the aftertaste of killing someone remained bitter and nothing to feel too happy about. Even though the other guy attacked first and initiated this fight. Completion rewards are now available. Would you like to confirm the rewards? Y/N. If there were no rewards, then this would be one hell of a loss-loss situation, that. Jin-Woo consoled himself with that line of thought and confirmed the rewards. The following rewards are available. Reward 1. 5 additional stat points. Huh? Jin-Woo formed a confused expression. The reward on offer was far less than when compared to fighting Hwang Dong-suk and his goons. But, it was a far harder opponent this time, though? Did this mean the number of enemies was more important than the skills of the opponent? Or, was there something else he hadn't figured out yet? Jin-Woo tilted his head slightly. It was here that Jin-Woo lowered his gaze and ended up spotting something rather odd. There was a spot of flickering light about as big as a coin gleaming on the corpse of Kang Tae-sik. Jin-Woo's eyes grew wider and wider. No way, could it be? Although he could hardly believe it, that light seemed far too similar to the one emitted by the loot found on the dead monsters from the instant dungeons. That light also indicated the position of the magic crystal inside a monster from the gates. But now, the dead Kang Tae-sik was emitting this light. What does this mean? Jin-Woo calmed his trembling heart and quietly reached out towards the chest area of Kang Tae-sik where that flickering light was coming from. Tearing. Indeed, he wasn't seeing things just now. You've discovered rune stone, stealth. Take it? A rune stone? Are you talking about that rune stone? His heart began pounding even harder than before. The skill Kang Tae-sik used had now become a rune stone and was waiting to be discovered on his body. Stealth was a rare skill that only a select few hunters could use. If this message was indeed talking about the rune stones he knew, then acquire it. Suddenly, a small rock with mysterious runic letters carved on the surface appeared in his hand. Rune stone, stealth. You can absorb the skill by breaking this rune stone. Absorbing skills by breaking the stone. As the description said, this rock was definitely a rune stone. By breaking it, he'd be able to use stealth from now on. It was then, he heard the voices of two people coming from his rear. Mr. Sung, are you alright? Mr. Sung Jin-Woo. Protagonist hid the rune stone inside his pocket and turned around. And he found Song Chi-yeol and Lee Ju-hui busy gawking at him with eyes filled with disbelief. The rank E hunter protagonist, who used to struggle like there's no tomorrow in a rank D dungeon, just defeated a rank B hunter Kang Tae-sik. Protagonist, of course, knew what Song Chi-yeol and Ju-hui wanted to say here. That was why he opened his mouth first. I'm really sorry. When the right time comes, I'll tell you both everything, so please, don't ask me anything for the time being. When protagonist made a request in a grave voice, Ju-hui nodded her head first. Eventually, Song Chi-yeol nodded, as well. If you're saying that, then you must have your reasons. I understand, young man. Protagonist then turned his head in the direction where the boss was. Although the situation had become complicated somewhat, his plan of killing the boss hadn't changed. He wanted to kill the boss by himself if possible. Also, there was another thing he had to, meaning these two couldn't be here. Protagonist looked back at Song Chi-yeol. With what has happened here, I think it's impossible to continue on with this raid anymore. For the time being, you two should leave the dungeon and contact the association. I'll remain here and search for other survivors. Song Chi-yeol instantly realized what protagonist was trying to do. He's going to close the gate all by himself. Even from the older man's perspective, doing that would ensure the least amount of suspicion. That would be a good idea. Miss Ju-hui, let's go ahead first. Ju-hui hesitated after hearing Song Chi-yeol's recommendation, but then, she took a step back without saying anything else. Even as she was escaping from the dungeon, she continued to look behind her several times. Protagonist only let out a sigh once the shadows of the two people were gone for good. The dungeon that emitted magical energy waves equaling a rank D only had a bunch of rank E goblins inside. In that case, there was a good chance that the magical energy wave was actually coming solely from the boss. A boss like that should give him enough experience points for a level up. But before I do that, there was something else he had better confirm first. Protagonist pushed his perception to the limit and carefully combed over all auras present within the dungeon. Found you. Protagonist began waking to his new destination. On the way, he discovered the cold corpses of Kim Sang-sik and the other hunter. This was the power of a high-ranked hunter. If such a hunter really wanted to, then killing a few lower-ranked hunters could be done in the blink of an eye. Jin-Woo's expression hardened as he walked past them.
We will finish this chapter here. Next chapter will be out soon, so stay tuned.